What is going on here?
I'm repeating myself, and I'm going to have to say it again. I understand that sounds horrible.
Adam Neumann, the infamous CEO behind the company WeWork, was set to revolutionize the industry of working. Instead, fueled by greed and delusion, Adam led his company from a modest startup to a multi-billion-dollar company, and then suddenly watched everything crash down around him. From allegations of horribly mistreating staff to genuine startup tunnel vision, Adam fell into the trap of the cultish obsession with Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. He was on top of the world, and then he crashed. Hard. Now he's trying to claw his way back to success. But will it work in his favor, and has he really learned from his mistakes? Adam Neumann is from Tel Aviv, Israel, but only lived there for a short time before he and his family moved to the United States once his parents got divorced and his mother wanted to do her medical residency overseas. Then, after 4 years, they moved back to Israel, where he would live until he finished his mandatory military training with the Israeli Naval Academy. Once his conscription was completed, he decided to go to New York City to attend business school. Adam had always known that he wanted to be an entrepreneur, and he got his start by creating a clothing line for kids. The company itself flopped, and he abandoned it within a few years. In 2008, Adam noticed a niche on the heels of the stock market crash that left millions of people with job insecurity who were turning towards entrepreneurship as a form of stability. He and a colleague created the company Green Desk, which was a shared workspace business focused on sustainability. Basically, what that means is that they are glorified landlords who rent office spaces to individuals rather than leasing to whole companies, allowing business owners to work from an office instead of at home on their own companies. He had 2 buildings in New York that were doing exceptionally well, and he wanted to expand outwards, so he found investors with extremely deep pockets. By 2010, they had rebranded as WeWork, and because Neumann fit the bill of a quirky, driven visionary with a gift for salesmanship who would bring in millions for them all, investors practically lined up to give him money. His quirky personality kept investors from asking too many questions and fostered a tunnel vision of sorts that cared more about stock price increases rather than balance sheet results. On the heels of Apple revolutionizing business, it seemed that investors were more concerned with knowing that their stock was going up rather than seeing genuine profit increases on paper that pertain specifically to a rising success of the company. By the way, when I say quirky behavior, I mean it. Adam was an extremely lavish person, and despite touting sustainability, he went on tons of private jet flights, one of which he and his friends were doing so much, leafy green stuff while inside of a plane that the flight crew had to don oxygen masks just to continue working because of all of the smoke. Neumann became known for his excess and, well, his greed, honestly, and it only kept escalating. He became convinced that death was a technical issue that would be solved with time and science, and so he invested heavily in startup life science companies. He also continued to collect millions of dollars from investors to open up different WeWork offices around the world. He became a sort of Marie Antoinette-like figure, ordained with wealth and spending money like he breathes air, all while his company begins to show signs of crumbling around him. He would leave employees to clean up the mess he had created, and continually abandoned other staff members who were starting to notice inconsistencies in the company itself. He was often completely impossible to get a hold of. Quote, sometimes he would abandon them upon landing at an airport for meetings, leaving staffers to find their own way home. This mirrored his behavior on land too. Adam would meet with staff and even interview prospective employees while riding around in his super luxury car costing more than $200,000. Then, when he was done, tell them to get out and ride in a separate car in his convoy. All of these insane and wasteful details in Adam and his wife's life are so hypocritical when you look at the business they had built themselves as. The WeWork company was founded on the principles of environmentalism and sustainability. Meanwhile, the CEO and his wife lived in a multi-million-dollar mega mansion, all while touting eco-friendly lifestyles to which they were not holding themselves accountable for. The Neumanns also treated their employees like serfs. The office was routinely trashed from weekend parties, and employees would come in on Monday morning expecting to pick up after the CEO and his friends. Everyone had the expectation of having to clean up for Adam and his friends, whether it be hop on a flight at a moment's notice to meet him where he is, or to work insane hours at a time just to make up for the slack of an absentee CEO. Then in 2018, cracks in the company definitely started to show. WeWork faced a lawsuit from a former employee who identified issues of inappropriate behavior specifically to the women in the office by both Adam and other employees. In her lawsuit statement, she accused Neumann of plying her, quote, with shots during her interview with the company. Shortly after the lawsuit came to light, WeWork created a policy that its employees could only drink 4 beers per day at the office instead of the unlimited amount previously. I love how that's just a normal thing to say for this company instead of completely insane. I would literally never get any work done. Then in August 2019, his extravagant lifestyle and greed finally caught up to him. WeWork attempted to become an IPO, which basically means opening their stock to the public to drive up value. WeWork directors were extremely concerned about Neumann's lifestyle looking bad on the company if it went public, and they were planning on asking him to step down as CEO, quote, after a tumultuous week in which his eccentric behavior and substance use came to light. After Adam got wind of this planned takedown, he took $700 million out of the company, and basically, by staging a coup, the directors kicked him out as CEO and replaced him. But not really staging a coup, because they let him keep the money and paid him $192 million cash to walk away. While that is an insane amount of money, after he stepped down, Neumann was dropped from the Forbes billionaire list. For the rest of 2019 and basically up until now, WeWork has tried and kind of failed a little bit to recover from its reputation as a hypocritical greenwashing company that allows its greed-driven CEOs to run off the rails. Meanwhile, Adam is attempting to make a comeback to the entrepreneurial world. In 2022, he started buying apartment buildings in New York, and it's estimated that he owns approximately $1 billion worth of real estate in his some 4,000 apartments. For an interview done in March 2022, he also expressed wanting to rejoin the business side. Quote, to be an entrepreneur, you have to regularly make decisions on the spot. And to be successful, you have to, over time, make more right decisions than you did wrong, actually a lot more right. And the higher the growth of the business, the faster you move, the tougher it is to do. But the longer you practice, just like surfing over time, the better you get at it. So you fall on surfing and then you get up and do it again, and you just do it a little bit better. Adam states he plans on shifting to residential sectors rather than commercial. The median age of a home buyer in the US has grown from 31 in the 80s to now almost 50 years old. He is attempting to make home building more accessible to young people who are so often pushed out by an impossible market. Although it seems to just be in the talking stages, and I can't quite seem to find a direction that Adam specifically wants to head in, it's just that it's kind of an idea he's hoping to achieve. Quote, we started by buying this real estate, and then I started walking the buildings, just feeling, and it feels like there's so much more that could be done to make tenants' lives better. In regards to his previous scandals, Adam stated about this new direction, quote, I think what's beautiful about the new story is that it is a progression and a consequence of the old story. I don't know if it's a model, but a thought that guided me is that if we take everything that happened as a lesson and we celebrate the great, we learn from whatever it is we can learn from, and then apply it as we move forward into the future, then it's extremely beneficial. That being said, there has been no improvement when it comes to Adam's lifestyle. He still lives extravagantly and prioritizes fun over business, which I think, for someone attempting to be back at the helm of such a large corporation, is not a good thing. I think that as long as Adam continues to be as greedy and selfish as we've seen him in the past, this new business is just as likely to crash and burn as his others, no matter how persuasive he can be.
If we can all come together and be in a true state of unity then the world will be in a beautiful place. And not only that, but that is the true reality. We just can't see it.
Rebekah Neumann is the freewielding yoga teacher who had an equal part in the downfall of the WeWork company owned and operated by herself and her husband, Adam Neumann. She and him created a cult-like work environment together that had employees thinking they were witnessing a true turn in business. That was until they found themselves out of a job and their stock options worthless after the couple would let the company burn around them due to frivolous spending and a party lifestyle that went against the supposed values of the company they created. Rebekah touted herself as an eco-warrior, yet taking private planes, partying till dawn, and trashing the WeWork offices after parties meant that the employees they hired were the ones left to pick up the pieces. Rebekah is a daughter of Evelyn and Bob Paltrow. She grew up in New York attending a fancy prep school. She went on to attend Cornell University for Business and Buddhism, although she would later work as a yoga instructor. You may recognize her maiden name. That's because she's the cousin of Gwyneth Paltrow. After she graduated from college, Rebekah entered a business trading company that would later rebrand to Morgan Stanley Wealth Management. Although she became a business owner through her husband, Rebekah has always been in wealthy circles. Going only to prestigious schools and spending insane amounts of money throughout her childhood on vacations, Rebekah was born with a silver spoon shoved into her mouth. Adam only gave her the ticket to owning the business. They met right before Adam created WeWork and got married the same year the trademark was acquired. Although the business was in her husband's name, Rebekah had equal weight in the decision-making surrounding the company. She hired and fired people based off of their vibes. She fired a mechanic for the WeWork private jet within minutes of meeting him because she didn't like his energy. One person who interviewed for a position within the company stated, quote, "I got the sense that she was guiding the company through her astrological intuition." During the interview, they almost solely discussed his birth sign to see if he was compatible with the company. He was not. Adam Neumann and his business partner grew the company from one office in downtown Manhattan to 12,500 employees over 29 countries with more than 500,000 paying customers ranging from independent freelancers to huge corporations, all while they burned through billions of dollars in investors' money. By 2019, Rebekah started calling herself a co-founder, she wasn't, and the company had started to pivot from renting out desks to attempting a grandiose vision of, quote, elevating the world's consciousness through other ventures like a co-living environment called We Live, a school called We Grow, and a fitness center called Rise by We. Seems very culty to me, down to the names, to be honest. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, back in 2017, Rebekah had named herself as a founder of a company called We Grow, which was the school I had mentioned above, with the mission of, quote, unleashing every human's superpowers. Rebekah stated that her intentions with the school was to create a space where children's spirits were just as nurtured as their minds, with classes on meditation and mindfulness, farming, and entrepreneurship. Launching a for-profit private school in the hyper-competitive New York City market was highly unusual, particularly for someone with no background in childhood education. Rebekah nevertheless succeeded in convincing wealthy parents to enroll their children in the school, which charged between $22,000 and $42,000 for tuition depending on age. To Amanda Uri, founder of Manhattan Private School Advisors, the whole thing seemed like a vanity project started by a woman who was so privileged she didn't really have to worry about typical concerns like positioning her kids for acceptance into top universities. Quote, very wealthy parents are often more relaxed about where their kids get into college because they know those same kids will always be financially well off, thanks to them. Indeed, Rebekah has said that she doesn't even know if her kids will go to college. That being said, We Grow only had 46 students, 4 of which were Rebekah and Adam's own children. Rebekah is a delusional yogi who, because of the wealth and idealized world she has lived in, believes in the most insane things with basically zero proof because she's never had to fight for her own opinion. She believes that eating sad animals will make you sad because you absorb their energy. She also believes that the secret to living forever is having a flexible spine. Rebekah has claimed to be a vegetarian since she was 12, but a person who worked closely with her said that for a period of time, she ate red meat once a week because a doctor told her that her, quote, body needed it, and said she would close her eyes while doing it. Girl, just take iron pills and omega-3s, that's what I do, it's really not hard. She banned meat consumption in her office despite this, because for some reason that's more eco-friendly than, say, taking a private jet all across the world basically all of the time. The Neumanns had 6 kids, and each child had a nanny as well, but they called them minders. I guess that's not to seem as privileged as they are. I mean, hell, she and Adam got $1 million as a wedding gift from Rebekah's parents. As the company's valuation soared, so did the Neumanns' dreams. Adam said he wanted to build a WeWork on Mars and be president of the world. He wanted to solve the problem of hunger and help orphans find families. In a 2018 business conference, Rebekah stated, quote, we want to create a whole we world where everybody is unified and happy and together. Since they were pushed out of their business at the end of 2019 in a sort of employee coup, the Neumanns have been downsizing. They sold at least 3 of their 6 homes. a California estate, a Westchester mansion, and a Hamptons farmhouse for a reported total of $27 million. Their 6-bedroom Gramercy Park apartment has been on the market since last year for $37.5 million. They hunkered down in Tel Aviv for a few months in 2020 before returning to the Hamptons. As federal and state investigators reportedly examine the Neumanns' business dealings, they're living their lives with their 6 children and support staff while hatching plans for their next ventures. For Adam, there's a new business he hopes to create that, quote, involves what's happening in the world because of the big thing that happened in March 2020. He's also been investigated in various startups tied to the real estate world. In late April, he was spotted in Miami at an impromptu industry confab called Miami Tech Week, at a party held at the Venetian Island mansion of a financier who was pardoned by Donald Trump for his involvement in the Varsity Blues college admissions scandal. Rebekah, meanwhile, appears to have the goal of creating another educational project out of the ashes of WeGrow, the rights to which she purchased when it closed. The new endeavor is called Soulful, spelled S-O-L-F-L, an acronym that means student of life for life. The Soulful Instagram account contains a link to the website featuring images of a surfer riding a wave, a bounty of fresh figs, and a forum where you can, quote, be the first to know about what's happening with the project. According to a person familiar with the matter, she's taken over a building in New York to school her kids along with the children of a few other families and has been reaching out to former WeWork employees to join the venture. Meanwhile, WeWork is finally having its IPO through a special purpose acquisition company. In order to settle litigation with the founder and go public in February, the company agreed to give Adam an enhanced stock award worth $245 million. A former friend of the situation stated, quote, "They don't think they've done anything wrong. They think everybody loves them." In this age of heist story after heist story being aired on various streaming platforms, the WeWork scandal seems to be a sad irregularity that is much more reflective of the current economy we live in. The Neumanns aren't behind bars. Worst thing that could happen to them is they get arrested for tax evasion or something and have to spend a few years in rich person prison. Really, the moral of the story is not that the good guys win and the bad guys get their comeuppance. In fact, Adam and Rebekah are still worth millions of dollars, are still living in their own version of a utopic reality where money is liquid and everyone is filled with love and wants to do yoga and eat celery. Meanwhile, the employees they scammed out of money and time are left to foreclose their homes and pick up the pieces, just as they have always done for the Neumanns. The rich get richer off the back of the employee.